Okay, I am here with Adam Legg in North Carolina
Yeah,
at a retreat center somewhere. Don't really know where I am.
no idea.
Yeah. And we're here speaking at a retreat talking about Sabbath rest, one of our favorite subjects. Yeah, we get to, as representing Love Alaska, here getting to talk. And we've been having this conversation on the side for quite a while now and wanted to just capture a little bit of an interview about it. But one of the things that happened during COVID is there was an explosion of the church finding ways to connect without getting to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched an explosion of churches moved into those digital spaces and trying to recreate or capture community in a digital space.
Yep.
And how'd the church do, Adam?
Terrible. It was painful to watch the entire way. Like,
Why?
It was painful for a lot of reasons. One, I think that they just tried to take what they were doing in the physical, capture the exact same thing, and think that if you had a digital version of that, somehow that's what people would want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you could just record the exact same thing you've always been doing and just put stream it, and people would want that. And they don't.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. Yeah.
Mark and I think we started out for a while doing church online. Turn that up. We started out for a while doing church online, and the awkwardness of Mark and I standing in our little TV room singing worship
No.
to the screen was so miserable that we quit doing digital church altogether. I thought, oh well, COVID will end soon. I cannot do this another week.
Yeah, no, we did it a couple weeks, and we were done as well.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like now coming out of that, there's been a lot of people that haven't made it back into those public spaces, and now we have another surge with COVID.
Yep.
So the mission continues. I think there's probably a wave of the future that we have to crack the digital space code.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Adam, tell me what you do. And I've been kind of looking at Adam Legg's digital life and putting it under the microscope. And I've been scratching my head for so long now, asking myself, why in the actual world does what you do work so well? Because it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do.
It is so crazy, and we scratch our head too. So just over 6 years ago, we started a YouTube channel. We called it Legg Life. Last name is Legg. We just wanted a place to share our life with people, and primarily people at that time when we started, Gwen, I think it was honestly mostly family outside. Like our niece and our nephews live outside of Alaska, and so we don't get to see them. We don't get proximity to them, and so we wanted them to feel like they got to see their aunt and uncle in Alaska. Right? That's really what it was. YouTube for me was the place that I always watched content. Like I'm not a big TV watcher, but I'm a big YouTube watcher, and so it made sense for us to create on the platform that I consumed, if that makes sense. And with time, we just upload random videos. I mean, it was just kind of normal life stuff, our travels, our little trips, life in Anchorage. And probably 2.5 years in, and we went on a Disney cruise, and we vlogged that, and those were the first videos that started to blow up, and we would see like thousands of new people coming into our channel, which we had never experienced before. We had spent 2.5 years, and our audience was 300 people, right? So 2.5 years of our life, 300 people, and then all of a sudden it just starts to grow because of this Disney cruise stuff. And so all of a sudden we kind of became known as like Disney vloggers, which was strange because like we live in Alaska. We don't live near the parks. We don't go to Disney all the time.
And you don't have kids.
And we don't have kids. That's right. So we're this dual income, no kid couple who does love Disney, and now we have this huge audience that's growing. And so that's just continued. Now we're 6 years in, and the audience is even bigger, and even more though than the size of our audience. Because we don't. When you look at people online, we don't have a huge audience. There's people that have, 100 times larger an audience than we do. But we have, I think, one of the most engaged and loyal audiences that I've ever seen online. That to me is the uniqueness of our channel. It's not the size of the audience. It's actually not that big in YouTube standards. It is the engagement of our people that is so strange.
So thinking back to the church and COVID and everything going digital, the church sprung into action to get content
That's right.
out online. You guys passionately pursued community online. So talk to me about the difference there.
So the difference there, and COVID to me, so we view there being two catalysts for community in the history of our channel. Number one was actually the 2018 earthquake we had in Anchorage. That was the first time we saw the community aspect, because I bet, it was a big earthquake in Anchorage, I bet within 2 hours after the earthquake, we had 200, 300, 400 emails and messages on Facebook and Instagram from people worried about their friends in Alaska. We had always viewed ourselves as just like YouTubers in Alaska or people in Alaska, but that's when we realized that people viewed us differently. There was a connection they had to us that when they heard about this earthquake, they had to connect to us. So that was the first catalyst for community for us. The second one was COVID. So when COVID started and lockdown happened, Sherry and I knew that we had a unique opportunity because people were already used to inviting us into their homes through like devices, right? They were used to us being in their living room digitally. And now all of a sudden their friends and their family and their church can't be there physically. And so we knew as people who they were already used to connecting with digitally that we had an opportunity. And so we said, what if we just started going live? And so we actually started on Sunday evenings going live on YouTube once a week, and we would go live on Instagram probably 20 to 30 times a week. Because for us, we wanted to use that. We knew that we had a unique connection, and we had this unique opportunity that even churches didn't have. And on YouTube, we were seeing 12, 13, 1,400 people at a time show up for our live streams. On Instagram, I mean, we were having like 10 to 13,000 people a week tune into different live streams. And I mean, we got an email even again this morning from people who tell us that you're what got me through COVID. Like, you're what got us through COVID. You were our community, our church through COVID. Because we just like went live and made ourselves accessible to them, right? They were already used to bringing us into their living room. They're not used to bringing their church into their living room.
Right.
They're not used to bringing worship into their living room. They're not used to bringing that stuff, but they were used to bringing us.
And one of the tools that we use in Love Alaska all the time, we call it the high invitation, high challenge matrix. And that discipleship happens when we both have high invitation and we have high challenge, and we operate in that space, and that's where we see some of those breakthrough relationships. And I think in the digital space, churches gravitated towards the content or the challenge.
Totally.
And never were able to really crack that code of how do I give access to my life in a digital space.
That's right.
And I feel, looking at, going back, and honestly, I've spent hours watching what you and Sherry have done. Like, okay, what is the secret sauce here?
Yeah.
How do we crack that? How do we come alongside? Because our passion is to come alongside churches and help them move towards marginalized people groups, and I've seen you and Sherry do that. If there's a marginalized audience or a people group that you guys have really gone after and done it well, I don't think you were in any way intentional about that.
No, not at all.
Like, absolutely accidental.
Totally.
But really captured this this lonely place of people that felt stuck inside, disconnected from their churches, disconnected from their families, and they found family online. Yeah. And so they found this place where there was challenge there. You were sharing the gospel. I remember your message on lament, and that blew up online. Yep. You shared a very personal and painful journey that you and Sherry went through, and you've had enormous opportunity to share the gospel in a place that's super unlikely. Yeah. And so this giving access to your life. So talk a little bit about what giving access to your life in a digital space looks like.
I think it looks like not just sharing the highlights. And this is one of the things that we've tried to be intentional about, because so much of social media is the highlight, right? I mean, that's the term we use, is that when you're looking at social media, remember, you're comparing your normal to somebody else's highlight reel, right? That's what we see on Instagram. That's what we see on YouTube. It's the perfectly filtered. It's the best of them, right? And so what happens is that we're in our normal. I'm looking at the best of someone else, and that can make me feel like my life is less than or not good enough. And so for us, we wanted to share like all of it that was appropriate to share. And so we invited people into our conversations and struggle around why we can't have kids. Right? We've invited people into just even the reality around budgeting, that like there are some trips that we want to go on and we just can't, right? We don't have the money. When Sherry got sick earlier this year, I didn't miss a video during that whole season. And we upload 4 videos a week and 1 podcast a week. And in a season where Sherry almost died, we didn't miss a single video. And what that did through our audience, the connection they felt to us in that was insane. I mean, thousands of letters and emails and cards and just people praying for us, because we invited them into things that felt normal and real. And it's not polished, it's not produced, our stuff does not look fancy at all. It's just us. And I think that giving access is giving access to all of you, not just the best of you. And I think a lot on YouTube and social media is people giving access to the best of them.
Well, I think pastors and church leaders are famous for telling the story of life change, but it's always the story that has the bow on top,
yes,
that
totally.
has resolution.
That's right.
And giving access to your life is giving access to the places that are unresolved.
Well, that's one of the hard parts about doing YouTube is, I mean, again, 4 videos a week. I only have the ability to tell the stories that are happening right now. And so a lot of what we share is in process, not resolved, right? And so a lot of times people get to see our life as it's happening, not always good, just very real. And I think that there's something, one of my takeaways from COVID is that people connect to people, not content. And so you can watch a piece of content and laugh at it, and we've all watched cat videos and dog videos and baby videos, and I enjoy that, but I never feel connection to the person who created that, right? I feel connection to people, not content. And I think we've done a good job of making us feel like they're friends in Alaska or people, not just content creators.
Well, so publishing a book this last year, and then the publisher assigned me to a media firm, and honestly, it made me cry and feel super scared. But the gal that was working with me said, we're not trying to sell books online. We're trying to sell you.
Yep.
And which was a terrifying thought to me. But that's probably even the catalyst that prompted me to begin to think about, what does it look like to, quote, sell the gospel? What does it look like to share our faith, which is selling the gospel, selling the gospel of Jesus Christ? Yep. It can't be about selling the book. It has to be about selling the people in which their lives have been completely transformed by Jesus.
That's right.
So how do we tell the story of the gospel and include transformation without selling the lives of the people who've been transformed? And that's very different.
It's very different.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts that I had about this is one of the things that looking at your channel and looking at the way that you and Sherry have done this, I feel like you guys have lived a very authentic life and being exactly who you were created to be. And sometimes that's pretty nerdy, like
oh, totally. Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, it is nerdy.
But you are unashamedly the people that you are, and you unashamedly like what you like. And you just happen to like things like Crocs.
Yeah, love
and
Crocs.
You like Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are this part of your life.
Yeah.
And Sherry has purple and pink hair, and she likes all things that glitter.
That's
like,
right.
You guys just invited us in to even put on display your personalities and the texture of that. So what is your monthly or your how do you do it, weekly viewership at this point?
Yeah, so just to touch even on what you said, one of the biggest compliments that we hear all the time is if we do like meet and greets for people, that people are just genuinely surprised that when they meet us in person, that's how we are. Like that, I mean, it's really not we don't have a character we play, like that really is us. And I think once people meet us online, they feel even more connected, or once people meet us in person, they feel even more connected because they've realized that it's like, oh, that really is them. Like this isn't a show. So monthly numbers for us, So subscribers and viewership, as I mentioned, aren't huge. We have 16,600 or 16,700 on YouTube. We have 25,000 total across social media. The biggest statistic we focus on, though, it's not subscribers and it's not views. Our biggest statistic is watch time. And here's why. This was intentional from the first time we started on YouTube. I knew that what YouTube valued was the amount of time people spend on one platform. How much time do they spend on YouTube? YouTube doesn't so much care about a view, they care about minutes. And so for me, I didn't want to create just like short little 30-second videos that got a lot of views. I wanted watch time. So we're doing right now between 1 million and 1.5 million minutes a month with 16,000 people.
Okay, so 1 million to 1.5 million viewer minutes a month.
Yeah.
So you must have an enormous amount of time and effort and work into your studio.
No, it's like no, and that's the thing is that like our studio is, we do have a studio that we film a couple videos at a week, but it is just like it was a guest bedroom that we decorated one wall with like Disney stuff and Alaska stuff, and we have a $179 ring light, and our camera's $300, and like literally that's it. Like that's our studio. But most of our stuff we film isn't even in our studio. It's just it's at Costco, right? And it's
so I wanted to go back to that because there's something that is so beautiful about that we need to capture. There's a few influencers that I do follow online. Some of them just because I like the products they have or whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's no money or a lot of time spent on studio.
Nope.
You're not touching up videos.
Nope.
You don't have links to sell a bunch of stuff. In
Nope.
fact, I've never seen that on your channels
Yep.
at all. Don't sell anything.
Right.
And yet the engagement is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you guys really have cracked that code of authenticity, and I
Yeah.
think that's a word that it just kept coming back to me over and over again watching all your stuff is this is authentic.
Mm-hmm.
This is who you are. How do you create or how do you break the power imbalance and create an atmosphere of trust? So this is something where I think the church hasn't spent the time doing.
Yep.
Is the content you can put out there can be absolutely spotless and inspiring and so right on, but if you haven't built trust with your audience, it doesn't matter, right? Because you won't have the viewership. How in the world do you create trust with a digital audience that you've never met before?
Well, it's really hard because most people, when they think of like influencers online, they think of people who are pushing something, right? And so it's like, I might like your content, but at the end of the video, you're going to tell me to like buy your sweatshirt or to buy your, you know what I mean? Like they're pushing something. And so it's almost like there's this transactional relationship we expect from our influencers. And so from the start of our channel, Sherry and I knew that for a season, we didn't know what that meant. We didn't want to ask for anything. Mm-hmm. And that season ended up being about 4 years where we never asked our audience for one thing. We never sold a product. We never pushed something we were involved in. We simply gave ourselves away to them for 4 years and asked for nothing. We do, and if anything, it costs us stuff because we do this Christmas card exchange every December with our audience, where if they send us a Christmas card, we send them a handwritten card back, and we get like 600 cards a year now. Like we do like 600 Christmas cards from our audience a year, and they know the time that takes us.
You should have thought that through.
Well, no, but we never expected it to get that big. But like our audience knows that like we ask them, don't buy the stamps for us. We want to buy the stamps. We want to be in this with you, right? That like we sign every one of those cards because like we want you to feel like you're connected to us. And so we spent years of our life giving away to this community, so that when we got to the place where there were things that we wanted to ask them to do, like there was this ask of them, there was not even a question for them of whether they would respond or not, because they were so bought in to what we did.
Well, they trusted you.
100%.
They trusted you that this wasn't a money-making platform for you.
Without a doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that power imbalance that is disrupted,
Yeah.
Because you expected, believed in, and sought something from your audience too.
Yep.
That you believed in who they were.
Yes.
I watched you and Sherry, which was something that I thought, okay, that's the thing that's different. You guys championed other channels.
Yeah.
You guys advertised other people's
Yeah.
stuff that benefited them, at the same time that there was never an ask for yourselves.
No.
I watched you do that over and over again, just really championing your people. Then tell us a little bit about what happened with AK 49th.
This was one of the craziest things. So we knew that we had built a community that had the potential to do something really cool, but we didn't know the full scope of that. And we actually started to test that out last summer. Sherry did an Etsy launch to pay off medical bills for her sister. This was like our first attempt to see, like, wonder what the power of our audience is. And our audience showed up and paid off all of Sherry's sister's medical bills. And so at that point we were like, oh man, like there's something here. And so we knew that we were kind of waiting for an opportunity to take that to the next level. And then this spring,
To bring this audience that you've built trust with
yeah,
on mission
100%.
with you.
That's exactly what
I
it
want
was.
to talk about, I mean, I was going
Yeah.
to interject that you're now bringing this group of people.
Yes.
A lot of them even found Christ through you guys. A lot of them don't know Jesus at all.
No,
but
that's
you
right.
decided that you were going to take a turn and bring them on mission.
Yeah.
So that was the first taste of mission, was Sherry's sister's medical bill.
That was the first taste of mission, and it really was a like, here's the need, exposing what the need was, here's why it mattered to us, and just kind of inviting them into that process to help, you know. And we let them know that we didn't know. We said, here's what the bills are, here's what it goes for, here's why it all can't be covered by them, you know, will you help us in any way you can? And they just showed up in a huge way. So we knew that there was something. That was the first, like, oh man, what have we built kind of moment. Like, this really could be something. And then this spring, we heard that the Canadian government was not allowing cruise ships to dock there again this year, at least in the beginning of the season. And so we knew that that meant that unless we saw a change in U.S. law, that would basically kill the Alaska cruise season. And that's an Alaska cruise like industry that had already been canceled last year. And we knew what that would mean for small businesses in Southeast Alaska and around our state. And I don't know, our hearts broke for all of the business owners that were getting that news at the same time, that none of their customers were showing up again. And I remember a conversation with Sherry and I just about, like, we have to help. We have to figure out a way to do something. But again, the cruise industry is, you know, 1.4 million people a year and huge. It's like, well, what can we really do? And so in a 48-hour period, we had the idea to start something. We thought, well, if people can't show up physically, I wonder if our audience could show up digitally. And so we came up with this idea. I went live on Instagram, and there were, 50 or 60 people who joined me. I was like, hey, I have this crazy idea. What do you think? They loved it. I was like, what should we call it? One of our viewers came up with the name of Shop 49th, so I bought the domain, I built the website, and in 48 hours, we launched this thing. And the whole idea was we'd pick 5 businesses a month, small businesses in affected areas of our state.
Like Ketchikan,
Juneau,
Sitka.
that's exactly right, all that. And basically, all that we would ask our audience to do is go spend as much money online with them as you could. We weren't asking for discount codes from the businesses because we didn't want a discount. We wanted our people to spend as much money as possible, because we also knew we have an affluent audience because of, like, the Disney stuff. And that was the goal, to get our people to show up digitally when people couldn't show up physically. And I didn't tell these businesses we were doing it because I didn't know if it would work. I couldn't find anything like this that had ever been done before in this way. And so Monday morning, we put out a video every Monday morning. So I put out a video kind of launching it on our channel. And by Monday at noon, just a couple hours later, I started to get emails from these owners of these 5 businesses. They were just like, who are you and what have you done? We had one business who did more online sales in 3 weeks than she had done in the previous year. I mean, we saw, like, every one of the businesses had their largest online sales days they'd ever had. And it just exploded. And we had, like, news stories written about it. And, I mean, businesses...
You were all over the press.
All over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Sherry and I spending thousands of dollars of our own money on these businesses. It was us mobilizing this community we had built to just simply show up. And they did in the craziest way.
And you saved dozens of businesses from going out of business.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah. It's shocking.
Because of, like, Disney videos. Because of Disney videos.
And I think what was so impressive to me is watching this because of Disney videos.
Yeah.
And Crocs.
Yeah.
What was so impressive to me about the whole movement is every time you were interviewed on television or had another opportunity to share about it, I never heard you say, I had this idea, I wanted to save businesses. It was a we.
Yep.
It was your community. It's like, look what you've done.
Yep.
Look what this community has done.
Yep.
And you made it about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really believe that our people think that they fully believe that this is something that we're doing together. So after we paid off all of Sherry's sister's medical bills, our audience had actually given more money than what was needed. And so we had this pool of a few $100s left over, and so we started this thing called the Kindness Fund with money that our audience had given. That was like, okay, let's have a pool of money that we can basically just like look for ways to bless people. Mm-hmm. And we still have people from all around the world who send us money every month, like a tithe, that just says like, I'll get a Venmo, it's just like Kindness Fund. Here's $200, Kindness Fund. And so there's all of this money now. Our people feel like they're a part of, honestly, when it feels like a church. Like that's really, I mean,
people don't give money if there's not that trust there.
And I mean, every month we still, to this day, we get people who send money, and we have, we share what we do with the Kindness Fund and what we're using it on and the needs that we're meeting. And so people really feel like they're a part of something rather than just we're a channel they watch. And that's I think the unique thing is that we've created something that people feel like they're a part of, not just something that they like watch on YouTube.
So give me in a couple words, what's the paradigm shift that the church needs to embrace to move into digital spaces?
I think it's less about the content and more about the person. I don't think that people aren't connecting digitally because the church's content isn't good enough. I think they're not connecting digitally because there's not a person to connect to. There's not the access to life. There's not the authenticity of the person. Mm-hmm. I just, like I said earlier, I don't think people connect to content. I think we can be informed by content. I think we can learn by content, but I don't think that there's a connection the way that we've seen people without just like authenticity. Mm-hmm. And that's hard for a church because in some ways the church is an organizational face, not a physical face, a personal face. And I think that really hurts the church because I don't think people connect to that. And so I think people connect to people.
Why do they connect to people? What is it about the person that they're connecting to?
Well, I think that there's, we hear, and our audience gives us a lot of feedback, and we ask for a lot of feedback because I like to know kind of why are people here, when did they join, that kind of stuff. And we have gotten a lot of answers to that question. And it's interesting because there are some people, so 80% of our audience find us through Disney content. So 80% of the people who are part of our community found us through like a Disney cruise, probably primarily, but they always say we found you through Disney but we stayed because of you. Like it was the Disney content that like exposed us to you, but like we stayed because of the people that we saw you mm-hmm. being and the lives we saw you living. And so I don't know, I just think it's that personal thing.
Yeah.
There's something in our story that I think people connect to, and they connect to different parts of our story.
And the ability to see transformation up close and personal, not see giftedness.
Totally.
You're always an anomaly to me because you're one of the most brilliant speakers and teachers that I know. I just really love sitting under your teaching. But Adam, it wasn't 3 years ago that I had to push and pull teeth to get you to even be up front at all.
Oh, I wanted nothing to do. 3 years ago, I never would have come on this trip. I remember the first several engages we did, and I would absolutely, I mean, not even an exaggeration, I would wonder how quick I could get to the bathroom to throw up because that's how sick I felt. The thought of standing in front of anybody, and this is so strange, Gwen, because for me, I would be in front of thousands of people a week on YouTube, and I always felt at home and natural. But the thought of standing in front of 20 people in a room, like I would want to throw up. And so the fact that even like this has become more normal to me and I now don't want to throw up, like that's huge. But I will say, we've invited our audience into that kind of stuff. Like they've gotten a front row seat to watch Sherry and I grow and change. We get comments all of the time about, because Sherry's very introverted, and so if you watch videos on our channel early in the channel, she's very reserved. She doesn't say a lot, not very outgoing, just because it's weird to hold up a camera and film yourself, right? And so she struggled with that. But now, like, people have watched her personality grow, and they've gotten to see Sherry kind of come out to really be who she is, and they got to watch that, so they feel like they're a part of that.
So if a church is wanting to engage in building community online,
Yeah.
it's not the incredible gifts of the main speaker
No, I don't think so.
that's going to sell it.
I don't think so.
It's the life transformation of the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and I think it's the access to the people. I think if people connect to people, I think it's showing, giving access to your life so people can watch the transformation. And I think it's more than just the lead pastor who you need to do that for.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. I think that, I mean, again, Sherry and I are quirky and strange, and we have really weird hobbies and habits, and we just live a very unique and different life. But in that, we found our community. I mean, it's cliche, but there's that whole, like, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think that we lived authentically ourselves in a digital space for a long time. And by doing that, we built our community. Like, we did what we do, and our people found us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One parting word for the church?
Oh, man. It's not about better content. It's not about more polished content or more produced content. I think that it is about access and authenticity.
Yeah.
I think it's about letting people into your life to watch both God at work in big ways and then the normalcy of life just to happen. You know, our videos where we talk about why we can't have kids and really hard stuff, sometimes those videos don't do as well as, like, we're just shopping at Costco. But people get to watch both, right? It's by us exposing the normal of life that they sit and listen to some of the hard stuff and the transformation stuff. So I think access and authenticity will trump perfection, performance, quality, polishedness every time online.
Thank you.
You're welcome.